things. I've heard vegans propose those things.
Hey, shut up, Squish. You would agree that that's a collectivist proposal by definition, right?
What?
Dissolving capitalism to ensure that the corporate systems that cause pollution don't exist anymore.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's been suggested, not by a government, but it has been suggested.
Well, when he says they, I take it as him meaning some sort of body that has power to enforce these sort of things. I'm not really sure.
I'm the one. I'm actually the one that proposed.
Nobody really cares about that though, because you're not getting that. That's not.
I'm actually the.
You do know, like, nobody has suggested that beyond leftist.
No, I'm aware of that.
What were you saying, Seth?
Yeah, I'm actually the one that proposed the supposed motivation by the left. I'm just reflecting on something Sebastian Gorka said. Sebastian Gorka is, believe it or not, respected mind on the right.
And what has he said about climate change? What's his solution?
Not a solution. No, it's his supposed motivation for the left to fake it. He claims, and a lot of people
just going back to what Godless was asking.
A left-wing power grab.
But a power grab in what sense? To just control consumption?
Well, it's politicized things. Like the idea that
Can I get an answer from Seth? I believe Seth has a better idea of what this is since you've done no research on the topic, Shamos.
Yeah, control consumerism and enact policies that they'd like to see enacted in general. Like, basically socialize the world. Put a rein on capitalism, that kind of stuff.
Socialism is a collectivist notion, so there you go.
Should be against the law for a woman to have more than 2 children. Full
hey,
stop.
Seth.
Yeah.
Do you remember when I said that the Chinese did the one child per family, and you started to spool up like you were going to say something?
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
That notion. So what I was asking is about the 50-person per community policy that Shamos wanted to see enacted. I was saying that that's not something that's available to him.
There was just confusion about the way that you were asking the question. I didn't know that you were saying, let's go ahead and presume that your ideal society is the way that it is. What are the ways that you propose to keep it that way, given the fact that human nature has this ability to want to like grow bigger, et cetera, because of like.
Well, I don't think you could have an ideal society. I mean, part of your ideal society was to limit those populations. So unless you have a way of limiting those populations, you don't have.
My ideal society was not to limit them. My ideal society was one in which the groups were that way.
We're limited.
It has nothing to do with whether I wanted to limit them.
Seth, why are you allowing him to get away with denying fecundity rates in regards to human population? Why won't he, I don't understand why he thinks that for some reason human nature would somehow go against the desire to not want to outstrip resources as a community.
Yeah, I agree that humans have those desires.
I actually brought that up to him.
I haven't denied, but have I denied it, Seth? I said I didn't. I said I didn't have.
He didn't deny it, but he doesn't have a solution.
You just said that it was human's nature. You just said that it was human nature to go beyond that. So yeah, you are denying.
No, that was what Seth was proposing. He was basically saying, Shamos, like, I took his question as this: let's propose that there is this society that in the ways of the way that Anne Prim wants it, and you have these groups, they're like 50 or less, as you say. How do you then, given that scenario and given this kind of inherent nature for humans to collectivize and build towards bigger things, et cetera, and do it for security reasons, et cetera, how do you propose a reason to keep that from happening, okay? And all I said is I have no fucking clue. Never, ever had an idea about how to do that. But what
one would think if you're trying to peel back technology levels to pre-industrial days, one wouldn't need to worry about it because the fucking world would do a pretty good job at weeding out excess numbers of humans to begin with.
Yeah, so the claim that he's an environmentalist, as is typically the case for fascists and neo-Nazis, is just an attempt to make his political views seem more negotiable than they actually are. You'll notice that on Discord, fascists and neo-Nazis often describe themselves as environmentalists, right? It's just an attempt to appeal to what somebody else may have in common as a jumping point. Nobody actually believes that Shamos has any knowledge on climate change or has any views that would protect the environment in the long run. He's just fucking bullshitting. As usual.
Yeah, I never said I knew anything about climate change. But
no,
that
but you
doesn't.
did forward the idea that there was reason to think that it might be possible that climate change is fake news, which of course never received any sort of
And what I meant by
justification.
possible is epistemically possible. For all I know, it could be fake news. For all I know.
Fascists will say anything to gain power. They historically include people as white who they don't really regard as white. They historically say that they believe in democracy or free speech when they really don't, or even use that in order to quell dissension. It's really disgusting. Fascism is an inherently dishonest political world.
I think fascism, even though it's dishonest, is one of the most. I'm always fascinated when I talk to fascists, especially on Discord, because you'll see like a whole scope of them. And typically the ones I've talked to have been very chill. They don't come off as racists, right? But you tell that they have some very far right tendencies, right? But especially the younger people, like, the young edgy people who become fascists, it almost seems like they don't even have an idea of what fascism even is. And so they have like this very selective ideology in fascism. So like they'll constantly conflate like Nazism and fascism. So they'll be like, look,
Yeah,
why
but
are
some
you
are
saying that
gonna
I
be more
hate Jews? I'm
expensive than
not
others, but I don't
a
know which
Nazi
one.
or anything. I'm just a fascist. And
Speedway
this
is
is why I'm
probably
a fascist. And I think like
best
it's a
chance
good
it's close
position
to.
to hold almost. It's weird, especially on what I've noticed on this. And then of course you'll just run into the people
well, I
who are
mean,
just
to be
completely.
honest, there are at least two. I mean, I think there's one distinction that's important to make among fascists, right? At least in the modern day, right? There are fascists who are just following like the fascist ideologies of the crypto fascists who know what's really going on, who are really useful idiots, right? They don't understand that they never thought it through. They want the brown people out of the country, for example, but they never really thought it through what that would mean and with the kind of political violence that would enact, right? Then there's the crypto fascists that really understand these things and don't care and are lying about it.
I mean, nobody actually believes Shamos when he says stuff like, I'm just forwarding the idea that climate change being fake is epistemically possible, right? That's clearly just Shamos smugly bullshitting his way out of saying that he thinks there's reason to view the possibility as justified. It's
Well,
just
no,
fucking
I
dishonest.
said in my original statement, I
trying to
said
be
it's
a little-
fake news for all I know.
Yeah,
And that just
so we have
comports with that
we have
view.
Shamos, we have Iron, we have
For
Vane,
all
all
I know.
three of whom have expressed views consistently that we would collectively consider to be the views of Nazis. So the view that Shamos is a Nazi seems to be entirely justified.
If you think you're kind of misreading me. If you think I'm motivated for some reason to like deny climate change, you're absolutely wrong. I'm not into corporatism. I'm not into fucking over harvesting and over taking resources from the environment. I'm not into any of that stuff, so I have no reason to deny it. What I'm saying is this, and this is me just being 100% honest with you. If climate change really is true, okay, then absolutely I'm on you guys' side, okay, because I don't want the world to be in a big problem or future generations for something that we've done, okay? And I would like to preserve the environment and preserve kind of the self-sustaining thing that we got here on the planet, okay? So you guys have just got me marked all wrong. All I was saying is I don't know whether it's true or not either way because I haven't looked at it. I have no reason to deny it.
When he initially said it might be fake news, right? That was in direct response to somebody that was defending the view that climate change exists and is a legitimate scientific phenomenon, right? So his intention was clearly to offer it as something worthy of consideration, something that he thought had some sort of backing behind it or justification. Nobody fucking believes the guy. Sorry, I wasn't done. Nobody fucking believes the guy when he says, "Oh, I was just offering it as an epistemic possibility." There's a pig flying outside my window right now. I'm offering that as an epistemic possibility, guys. Are you interested in that conversation? What a fucking
I have
liar.
a question though. If you, Shamos, I don't know why you would give a shit about climate change and all that, because you're the one who wants to see the world burn down. So it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but I don't want to see the world burn down in terms of that. I'd like it to go fast and quick, like with the whole nuclear ordinance being dropped. I wouldn't want it to be like that. That would be horrible, and that would cause
Oh, you
a
mean
lot.
you wouldn't want to suffer? You wouldn't want
But
to have to deal with
yeah,
it.
exactly. I wouldn't want for a bunch of undue suffering to happen. That would be ridiculous. And so, but Pogan, yeah, you've got me marked all wrong. If you guys were trying to
No, I
propose
think
that,
he's justified.
you guys have seemed to propose that the reason why I said that is because I would have some motivations to deny it if it were true. But in fact, I have no motivations to deny it is true. I'm against corporatism. I'm against those type of over raping of the environment, et cetera, and unsustainability. So I have no reason to deny it. Okay, and I just told you, if it's true, then I think that I'm on your guys' side completely. Okay, and that we should do something about it, and that it would be retarded not to. So given that I've said that, you guys should be at ease at this point, because I didn't mean like, oh yeah, it's fucking fake news for sure, blah blah blah. Nothing like that.
I've already explained what you meant.
No, I'm explaining what I mean right now. And
No, I think there's a justified inference to be made about why you said that, and I gave the explanation. So I'm not really sure why you're continuing to be dishonest.
Okay. So I'm just being dishonest about
Yes.
my views. I really honestly have reasons to deny climate change. That's absurd.
Yeah, continue to lie. What were you gonna
Okay,
say,
so
MJ?
what reasons would I have to deny climate
It wasn't your
change?
opportunity to speak there. MJ, go ahead.
Shamos, I'm just confused. You said you haven't really looked into it, but why not just look into it and then determine whether it's
You gotta work on his survival.
Why did you go ahead, man?
I was just curious, Shamos. You said you haven't really looked into it. Why not maybe just look into it? Which I could provide you some papers if you'd like. Or just provide you a server, which is my archive of papers where I post them that I read, and then you can
You can send that stuff to me in PM.
Yeah,
You can send that stuff to me in PM.
Okay.
But the thing is, I probably won't read it anytime in the so near future, because I've got some other stuff I've got going on. But hopefully I'll be able to get around to it eventually. You can post the stuff in PM. Thanks.
Yeah, he's gonna be chatting up in your DMs. That's what he's gonna be worried about.
I'm gonna be worried about what?
Chatting up in her DMs. That's the only thing you're gonna be worried about.
No, that's not true.
Yuri, what do you think of climate change, bud?
I deny it completely. I don't see any evidence for it, and I think it's just completely capitalist.
Wait, what?
What?
Yuri, what are you saying right now?
I'm being sarcastic. You guys know my
Capitalist
position
propaganda.
on climate change.
What
You
are
guys know
saying
my position on
right
climate
now,
change. I was
Yuri?
obviously joking.
Yuri, what's your
Of course I believe.
I'm sorry. I should have let you finish. I apologize.
I thought you
Yuri,
guys knew my position.
what's your position on fascism?
I'm anti. I'm a political nihilist, but I tend to not prefer.
Political nihilist.
That's a real position. Political.
Do you support limiting the rights of known fascists?
It would be enjoyable to do that if we were to get that.
What do you mean when you say political nihilism?
Oh, I just think politics is meaningless.
That's not actually political nihilism.
That's also an incoherent statement.
Wait, how is it?
Well, because any proposition that deals with politics is going to have meaning in your view, assuming your views are the same as they were 3 weeks ago.
Oh fuck.
I've been a political nihilist or whatever it's called for about 2 months.
You're misunderstanding political nihilism. So political nihilism is the view that politics won't fundamentally change anything about the human condition.
Oh, I believe that too.
Okay, that's the definition of political nihilism.
Someone gave me, I guess someone who gave me the definition did a bad job of explaining it, but I knew what you just said was entailed. I just thought what I said was also additionally entailed.
It's kind of a misunderstanding of political nihilism.
Okay. But yeah, what you said I agree with too, so I guess I'm still...
Yeah, I'm sure you still are. I'm just trying to clarify, you know?
About a starter kit.
bought a starter kit.
But
There
wait,
was no other
Pogan, what did I
option.
say that was? No, I think you're just equivocating. Yeah, Pogan, I just think you're equivocating on what.
I think most of your guys' critiques of my view either fell flat and showed that you were trying to misinterpret me, or that you were describing some motivations that didn't exist.
Okay, so let's get a lecture on conversational
are-
etiquette from the
and that you guys are
transparently
that you
dishonest
guys are
fuckhead.
seriously biased. When
Okay,
have I been
alright.
dishonest?
Oh, I already gave the explanation for that view.
Do you think
You
you're the
always
best
say that
person
you
to
gave
determine
explanations
whether or
of stuff
not
that you never
you?
explained. You explained sometime tonight when examples of me being dishonest. Yeah, I don't
Hold
think
on a second,
I don't
Shamos.
think you have.
Hold on. Do you think you're the best person to establish or determine whether or not your views were like defended?
But I was giving a matter of what my opinion was. I was just saying I don't think any of your guys' objections. I think most of them really either fell flat or they were just ascribing some type of
Do
motivation.
you think that if we asked anybody if what you thought, that you would?
Well, you can ask around if you want. I'd be okay with you doing that.
Does anyone in this room think that Shamos gave views on climate change and/or anarcho-primitivism and/or fascism that were not objected to in a sub?
I'm curious on what his claims are besides him like not actually like reading into like any of it.
I just want that. We can get into that, MJ. I don't mean to be a dick.
You're
But
fine.
does
You're fine.
does anyone want to? Does anyone want to speak up and?
You
See, I'll defend
Critiques that were
Shamo.
offered were just misunderstandings of my view that you guys had.
Oh, you do
clarified.
have a defender, Shamos. Yuri, which of Shamos's claims do you think?
I don't know. I thought it was
Oh,
defending Shamo
fuck!
from
Not
something
like
else.
this.
If you go
Wait,
back,
do
if you
it.
go back, let's recall some of the conversation. Seth asked me about a position about anarcho-primitivism, and I said, and he was saying, what is the right way that we should go about making this happen? And I said, I don't know. So that was a question. That was me, and so that wasn't an attack on my view. So let's just say, and I know that Pogan will never do this. Let's just go ahead and list a few of them
Poisoning
out.
the well. Nice job, dude.
Well,
That's not true. I pointed out the fact that your ideal world limits population size to 50, not of the whole world, but of communities, and you have no way of actually doing that. So if your ideal world is to limit a certain community size and you have no way of doing that, then I think that's a problem for your worldview.
what was the last thing you said? Then it's a what view?
I think it's a problem for your political view.
No, you see what you're saying is it'd be a problem for me trying to actualize and achieve that, but it doesn't have any bearing on whether or not that's the optimal world that I prefer. So like that's just a value claim, right?
Look, if it's just something you prefer, then it's not even politics. Politics is about enacting policies in order
No,
to get something done.
I'm saying you've made a fatal mistake about the difference between facts and values, right? The fact that there are going to be some facts about what could be the case in order to make my world outcome more likely, right? Those are
Not more likely. Your the way you stated, unless you want to go back on it, was that you think community size should be limited to around 50, and you have no way of doing that or having any idea.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the difference between facts and values. I have no idea about what facts need to be brought about to make that the case. Okay, but it has nothing to do with whether or not I value that as an outcome. Okay, so the one doesn't bear on the other. That's all I'm saying. So that's not any objection. And if you think it's an objection to say that I don't know how to bring about that future, I admitted to that. That's not a problem for my view. That's me endorsing that as a problem for my view. The problem that I don't know how to practically bring it about, but I admitted to that. So what other things were brought up about my view? I'm really curious.
So it's kind of like saying that I value gold, right? But I don't have a fact of the matter for how I'm going to get that.
Wait, but this is just the Shamos rhetoric tactic where we try to walk through the objections that have already been raised and the objections being dismissed that he raised in order for him to
This is where
generate
Pogan
a
gets
new.
to be
I'm sorry,
deliberately
you're
vague.
talking over me. It's an opportunity for him to generate new angles of attack, right? You're just basically platforming the same bullshit that we dealt with 20 minutes ago. So if that's what the room wants to do, fine by me. Just telling you ahead of time that it's a complete waste of effort.
Yeah, you're just being deliberately vague. Like, oh yeah, things we've already responded
You've been
to.
given
But
satisfactory explanation.
Is this
yeah,
like
I don't
when
think I
Shamos
don't think so.
debated Declan, and now he wants to redeem himself or something? Is that a similar
It's
situation?
essentially the same situation. Yes.
No, I just take issue with the fact that it was painted as if there were any serious problems that were brought up about my view. That's what I'm contesting, and no one's brought any of those to surface yet.
Which is a lie because they have been brought up.
Well, can you restate him for us, Pogan? Because I don't think I remember.
We went over why, when he said, for instance, there might be reason to think climate change is fake news, it's justified to infer that he meant more than that beyond just raising an epistemic possibility. We went over why it seems justified to refer to his views as consistent with National Socialism. We went over why his representation of the population having a bearing on climate change is completely ridiculous and bereft of justification. And then basically the rest of the conversation was him arguing some meta bullshit with Gus and Seth that I'm not really interested in rehashing. So if you want to run through those objections with him a second time, you can.
All of those things were explained. National Socialism is incompatible with my view because it's incompatible with incompatible with anarcho-primitivism.
Conversation now?
Look, I'm just telling you that they've been answered. The National Socialism has been answered because it's incompatible with anarcho-primitivism. There's no such thing on that view as having.
There's no reason to think you're an anarcho-primitivist.
What do you mean? So you're denying that I'm
Are you
that
confused
I'm
by that statement? No, I'm
Well,
saying the defenses you raised for your view have been completely objected to and dismissed, as I just explained. So do you want to rehash them a second?
I've only given one defense of my view.
Fuck.
Look, this is all rhetoric. I've only given one defense of my view, and I doubt that you could even remember what that was.
If somebody else wants to play with Shamos for,
you guys are just.
I think
You guys are
Shamos,
just like being rhetorical.
how far you fallen?
You guys are just being like spitting out a bunch of rhetoric. You guys haven't done anything.
You guys need to listen to Korean rap. Korean.
It's like some little piece that you guys were putting on or something like that.
We're just teasing you because you're like really upset at people saying that you're wrong about something.
to this day, Shamos will have you believe that he did not lose his debate with Declan. Can you fathom that? That's like, how could anyone believe that Shamos came out on top in that discussion? It's just unreal.
But you'd agree, Shamos, at least rhetorically, like Pogan is like emasculating you right now.
I mean, I don't see any substance to this. This is all just like trying to get a rise out of.
So he just ignores the question.
Yeah, you just ignore the question.
Things that, when it comes to the things that were said, I don't think.
Why are you evading?
I don't
again?
think there's
What's the
any
reason
reason to ascribe motivations to me that like I had any reason to deny climate change, because like the only reasons I could think of is me supporting corporatism or something like that. Why else would I deny it? So I don't think that those. I don't think that those have been justified at all.
Better question: why are you evading the question?
Saying that I'm a national socialist has been responded to.
Has been
those views are
completely
incompatible with anarcho-primitivism. To say that I haven't justified anarcho-primitivism is ridiculous, because I only offered a single justification of anarcho-primitivism. And
Michael, my question is, granted that in terms of content, nothing that you said was dismissed, I guess, for the sake of argument, it still seems to be the case to me that Pogan is like at least like rhetorically kind of emasculating Shamos right now. Just wanted to know his input on that.
Aren't you meant to say like demasculate?
Yeah, whatever the word is, you get what I mean.
Yeah. That's fine. There's nothing to it though.
Emasculating was fine there. You can use emasculate. It just means I'm either A, depriving him of his manhood, or B, I'm making him look weak. Both of which would have been fine.
I'm just like referring to Shamos kind of like submitting to Pogan in a sense right now. And Pogan is talking shit, and Shamos is not really like responding.
Well, I mean, what he's doing is he doesn't want to recirculate. He wants to claim by fiat that all.
But we polled the room already. Like, we asked around if anyone thought that there was reason to think your views were justified or that they weren't dismissed, and nobody spoke up except Yuri, who then immediately retracted his statement and said, "Oh fuck, I guess I can defend him there."
Yeah.
So what the fuck?
So, I mean, it's hard to interpret that other than that being like an argument at topic. I mean, are you trying to
Do you think
say?
the inference that we've already gone over this and your views were dismissed? The inference
No, the
being
view that you
nobody in the room
told
is
the
supporting you.
audience.
Excuse me. Nobody in the room is supporting you, right? You don't think that's a reason?
Yeah, I think that
Could you answer?
yeah, I think could be reasons to form an inference on that basis.
Okay, there. So there's your reasoning as to why we wouldn't need to go over it a second time if nobody thinks it's necessary, and we already think your views, right? There's no reason to rehash it just because you want it rehashed. Nobody gives a fuck.
I mean, no one has raised a problem with my views at all.
I don't understand what part of what I just said was confusing.
Well, it's confusing when you keep claiming that people have raised problems with my view and no one has. And then I've already addressed why and how they haven't. So I mean,
Do you know what it seems like you don't know what an inference is. I just gave you the inference and the justification. We don't care what you have to say. Of course, you're going to constantly float the idea that you've been standing on a pedestal this entire time and your views haven't been attacked and it's completely justified in everything you've said. Of course, you're going to float that idea. The fact is, nobody in this room except Yuri spoke up to defend you, and Yuri retracted his claim immediately. So what the fuck are you doing? Besides continuing to embarrass yourself.
Yeah, Shamos, I think Pogan got you here, man. It's just time to back down. I couldn't defend you, man. And you know, once that happens.
No, I don't see that as a problem.
Not too.
I don't see it as a problem if no one comes to my defense. Okay, I agree that.
Why is the inference unjustified?
No, I never said the inference is unjustified. I agree.
All right, then conversation over.
No, it's not. It doesn't mean conversation over. It doesn't mean conversation.
Does somebody else want to play with him?
It doesn't mean conversation over, just in virtue of the fact that there's some inference that no one else has said anything in my defense that has led to the fact that my views aren't defensible. Yeah, I think there's an inference there. But I mean, I think there's a stronger inference in the fact that I've already addressed the ways in which you guys have thought there are problems, and none of them have rang to be true. And so that's going to take precedent over the fact that a weak inductive inference of something like no one has said anything, and typically in the past when no one said anything, that's indicative of something about you. That's just a really weak inductive inference. But I've already...
This all just seems like an attempt for you to open up another angle of attack regarding views that have already been dismissed. We just went over why
have been dismissed. None of you guys are...
Excuse me. We already went over the reasoning as to why nobody in the room would think that your views haven't been dismissed. You conceded that inference was justified. It's like, to quote.
Okay, so you're leading everyone to believe that somehow, someone, in some way has refuted anarcho-primitivism in the last however long.
Yo, my nigga Pogan is.
How do you account for dependency state?
I'm old enough to be.
When any of you ever figured out what the argument against anarcho-primitivism that has been levied, you guys let me know. So I'm really curious.
Run away. Oh my god, Yuri.
You guys are just talking shit.
Run away, Shamos. Goodbye. Fly away, little fairy.
Run away when someone's making excuses about how they're going to leave. That's when you say run away.
Seems like you were exiting the conversation when you said, when you guys have an argument against exposition, let me know, right? What else are you going to do?
I'm telling you guys that my door is always going to be open since no one seems to...
Okay, cool. Well, then I look forward to somebody walking through that door.
Shamos' back door is, in fact, very wide open right now.
In fact, Shamos, what you can do is when somebody walks through that door, you can send me a DM letting me know that they have addressed your view in apparently a more substantive way than we've been able to, despite answering all of your questions and dismissing all of your objections.
All right, fine, that's cool. Seth.
Okay, goodbye.
Seth, are you there?
No, don't fucking engage Seth as a way to like get out of the awkward situation you've just placed yourself in.
What awkward situation is that?
Being completely fucked by me.
What? I don't know what objections you raised. I'm even curious.
You flunked, kid.
you said you ascribed motivations to me about why I might
I've given
deny
a
climate
more than
change, and all
detailed
of those have
account
been
of every
rebutted.
objection that was
You
raised,
said
and
something
you
about
simply
natural
said that
socialism.
inference is
All of
justified.
that's
So
been
what are you
rebutted.
doing right now except trying to get out of the situation? Do you think I have somewhere to go? I have all
Look,
night.
it's just a weak inductive inference. It would be something like this. Most of the theory
So we
proposed.
concede that it's justified, and then
Well,
we
look,
give reasons to think it's
it would be
weak.
justified weak inductively. It would be something like this. Most theories in science have been falsified. Therefore, it's a good idea to think that the next proposed theory in science will be falsified. Okay? I mean, yeah, that's just as weak inductively as what you put on the table. Should that give you a reason to be a complete skeptic about all the theories being proposed in the future? That's all that you said.
Right, so if you want to leave the door open, right, you can tell me when somebody walks through it. The inference was justified by your own admission. Goodbye. Have a nice day.
It's just.
I look forward to somebody. Excuse me. I look forward to somebody addressing the argument in a way that you find satisfactory.
Yeah.
Until then, please do us all. Excuse me. Until then, please do us all a favor and shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's just as justified as the inference that I just said. The weak inductive inference against.
Are you done?
No, I'm not done.
What's really funny is that weak inductive inference is actually like the foundation for an entire branch of scientific anti-realism.
No, I think that the scientific anti-realist would put that argument as one of the lowest. Would put that argument as one of the lowest prioritized arguments. It's not a very strong argument.
Then why is it the first argument featured on the SCP for structural realism?
Oh fuck! Strike two, Shamos. What are you gonna do? Like, is this the rest of the?
So a weak inductive inference was the first thing that they used for the article on structural realism.
I could literally drink 6 beers and I would still be more capable than Shamos.
Yeah,
right
but that wouldn't be inconsistent, right? Because a weak argument or a weak inference might be something that might be something they use.
Here come the.
That might be something they use for like an introductory explanation of how this works. So they might say like,
"This is an attempt at redemption." The goons.
You guys are just over talking and being nonsensical. I'm just saying, like, just because somebody presented a weak inference doesn't mean that that's not an example that's a weak inference, right? You might just introduce somebody to a topic with a weak inference.
Don't worry, Shamos. I will save your little schwanz.
It seems as if like the notion was put forward that the order of which it appears in the Stanford article has something to do about how important the argument is taking to justify the position. I mean, that if that's that's at least what I assume was proposed. Why would anyone have reason to think that that's true?
This is redemption.
Yeah, that's the question that's being evaluated.
It's a question, but when someone else says something really stupid that needs to be examined, you guys try to play like smoke screens for them. Well, the guy that brought up the Stanford example, it seemed as if you were proposing that argument is going to be one of the most important arguments to justify its position in virtue of the fact of the order it appears in the Stanford article. Why should we think that that's true? I don't know. Crickets. Okay.
Right, because the SCP is about introducing people to the topic, right? It's about basically educating like laymen about the nature of the argument. So we went to assume that they would put forward like the most complicated and empower example first.
I think Shamos was trying to address here.
Oh. Well, and
now you're just acting like a child. Like,
I'm rereading the article.
Why would you say something? Why would you say something stupid and then act like a child afterwards? I'm not really clear.
Yawning is acting like a child?
Yeah, when you unmute yourself to fucking yawn and make like juvenile noises, or it's effectively like a pretentious person version of farting into the mic, right? So you're just like, I'm just so uninterested and so above this conversation.
Iron, I know you're really triggered right now, but Young asked me a question.
I'm not triggered.
Young was asking me a question. I pressed my push to talk button and then I yawned because it's an involuntary physical process.
Good Christian boy. Good Christian boy. I asked you a question.
Well, you didn't say my name, so I didn't know if you were talking to me.
Oh, you're the one that brought up the Stanford article. You're the one that brought up the Stanford article.
I'm currently rereading the Stanford article to make sure I'm presenting what I was what I had in mind correctly.
what you had in mind correctly seemed to presuppose that the order of which it appears in the Stanford article, like if it appears the very first thing that's in the Stanford article, then that means that that argument is going to take the most precedent in amongst the people that have that view. Okay, and that clearly no one has any reason to think that, and it just seems completely crazy to think so.
But he also didn't
It would
say
seem.
that.
Listen,
Right?
it would
didn't
just
say
seem
that it's a strong
ridiculous to think something of the nature that most scientific theories that have been proposed throughout history have been falsified. Therefore, it's likely that the next scientific theory should be falsified, which is a valid inductive inference, should be the main basis for why people want to be scientific anti-realists. In fact, I know
But he
of.
also didn't say that it's the most important.
There's
You're
stronger arguments in the literature, and that no person that was a scientific anti-realist would ever want to hang his hat on such a weak inductive inference. And you guys wanted to act like smartasses, like, oh, then why does it appear the first thing in the Stanford article, then, motherfucker? Like, what do you think that has anything to do with?
But look, his
You guys are just talking shit.
was not.
And Pogan's been sitting here
But his
trying to
claim was not
posture and
to
then put forward a
imply-
lot of rhetoric as if he's refuted anarcho-primitivism, which is
So is
absolutely
this-
not true. Seth asked a
This is not
practical
rhetoric?
question about whether or not I thought had any reason to think that I could practically come to those means. And I said no. And I said that was just muddling the fact-value distinction. Whether or not I value anarcho-primitivism as an outcome has nothing to do with whether or not I know that which facts relate to bring it to be so. So you guys haven't said shit. In fact, you guys have just been posturing the whole time, and Pogan's been using the whole everyone thinks and no one wants to speak in your defense as a way to move away from it and act like he actually won a fucking argument for once in his life. If anyone that actually knows anything about anything has saw right through all of this bullshit. No one's wrecked anarcho-primitivism. No one's put forward any serious problems with any of my view. Good Christian boy has made an assertion that's just straightforwardly false, as if the fucking order of a Stanford article has anything to do with the priority of the argument and the views of
But
the people that hold
look, like the
you
point.
guys are
The
a bunch
point
of
is that
faggots.
you want to.
No way in
Can I
hell
talk?
that anyone is taking this
You're
seriously, that you
fucking
guys have
triggered as
done any
fuck.
fucking serious harm against me or my
But
so
but you're
you guys
triggered
can
as
just
fuck,
go
right? Like
ahead
the
and try
point
to
is
follow
that all
Pogan
you're
out the
doing.
door and fucking run away and fucking claim, oh, no one wants to come to your defense. Oh, we've already raised them. Oh, it's already been hashed out, so that you can just run away and pretend you had some victory. That's what you
But
faggots
like,
want to do.
look,
You go
the
right
point
ahead.
is that all I was saying is that it seemed I don't even hear the debate or whatever. The point is that you're trying to say stuff like, anyone who understands anything about this will not take Pogan's claim seriously, that you haven't defended your claim, yet no one feels like you have defended your claim, which just means that you think that no one in here has any idea of what they're talking about, right? Which is all you do when you feel like you've lost a debate. Right, you just say shit like that. No one knows what they're talking about. We have to revisit what I said.
Why don't you
right?
just explain
It's
the
just
inference? Why don't you just explain
you
the
guys have
inference?
I
presented
told you that I
negative
didn't.
evidence.
I told you that I didn't listen to the debate. You
Young,
fucking
why don't
moron.
you just explain the inference?
I think what's
Like, why
going
don't you
on
explain
is
how
there
they're
should be
connected?
another way that this should be approached. You
What
guys are trying to
inference?
present negative evidence, like something like this.
Which fucking
If no one mics up and comes to your defense, then clearly there were problems with what you said. But you know what I think would be a way better way to propose that is if you said, here are the people that are going to come forward and tell you what the views were about your position. But then they would have to shoulder some burden, and they won't want to do that. So you guys want to provide negative evidence, the fact that no one wants, there's so many reasons to explain why they want to come on mic, probably because they don't even understand what was even on the table, probably because they don't even understand what the fuck was trying to be proposed in the argument, because it's incoherent bullshit. So, well, look, if people really think that I got wrecked or there were problems with anarcho-primitivism, how about this? All of those people mic up right now and tell me what the problems were. And guess what? I'm going to form an inductive argument. If no one mics
But
up and
that's
tells me
not.
exactly what the problems are right now, then I'm going to assume that there were no problems.
Yeah,
So
so
what
that's
now?
just rhetoric, right? Given that the idea is not that anyone has an objection to anarcho-primitivism, the point was about what you said in the debate being defended or being correct, or not having shown to be false. So it has nothing to do with anarcho-primitivism being correct.
Yeah,
roughly.
whatever, we can broaden the scope. I'd be happy with that. You can bring up anything about anything that was said. So the people that thought that there were problems with my view, speak up now. And if you don't speak up now, I'm going to assume inductively on the same basis as Pogan that there were no problems. So what now? What were the
Anyone
problems?
who'd listen to the debate can speak up.
Seth, do you really think that there were problems brought up with my view? Do you really think that I did, in the problems that I had with my view, I admitted to pretty openly?
Seth?
I'm going to make the weak inductive inference that Seth doesn't want to talk to Shamos right now.
What's the question? I have my phone's out. What's going on?
What I was saying
Shamos is asking you. Okay.
do you think that anyone provided serious problems with my view, or do you think that when there were problems, I just openly admitted them, like I didn't practically know how to keep the groups at 50? Do you think anybody provided
Do you think
any
that
serious
admitting
problems?
that? Do you think that nonchalantly hand waving away like problems with your worldview is not having a problem with your worldview?
Look, I admit what I'm saying is I admitted that pretty open-handedly. I just said, look, I don't have any idea of how to practically get there. And so what I'm saying
Look,
is that's not
question.
anyone
Look,
raising a problem in my worldview. That's me admitting openly. Do you think that there was something that I defended that someone brought up some kind of objection against?
Shamos is just
Really
asking if Pogan, if Pogan like demonstrated any of the claims that he portrayed to be an objection or something that's relevant to Shameless's view. I think Pogan listed
Guys,
a few.
I'm at work. I had my headphones off for a lot of that. So
he said what the three claims were. I didn't hear the last one, but he said one is that there was evidence on the basis of why I would deny climate change, okay, and that there were objections presented to my motivations of why I might deny climate change. But I already responded to that. I'm against corporatism. I don't have any money. I'm not invested in I don't want them to rape and overtake our resources or anything like that. I honestly, unless you think I'm being dishonest about that, which I seriously would have no reason to be if you knew my views, and most of you are fairly acquainted with them, then you know that I have no reason to deny climate change. All I was saying is I'm ignorant about the facts of climate change, and for all I know, it could be fake news. Okay, and it's only due to my ignorance. Okay, and I have no reason to deny climate change. If it was true, I'd be just as on board with you guys about what we should do about it. And
The point, I think what Pogan was trying to say is that what you were trying to do is just present the claim that climate change could be fake news as like merely an issue of epistemic possibility, right? And that there was no reason that you were making that sort of claim. He made that claim, then he made, just one second, then he made the claim about Nazism or something. You not being, like, there being reasons to believe that you were like a National Socialist. And then some other claim that I don't remember. Those two.
Yeah, I'm not a National Socialist. Especially not what you guys mean by National Socialism. Okay, because that would just contradict my views on anarcho-primitivism. And then what Pogan said, because he knows that you couldn't be both of those at the same time, is he said, you're not an anarcho-primitivist. So, I mean, that's kind of silly if that's where it all goes. Him to just say, oh, well, you're just, and it's each time it's denial of my motivations. Like, he's really not being truthful. He's lying about his position.
What really fucked this conversation, so it wasn't as if anyone put forward a view and a contradiction was identified or some kind of actual issue was it was just basically an interrogation of Shamos's integrity, right? The question came down to, is Shamos being honest when he says this about climate change, or is Shamos being honest about this view? But there was no logical issue discussed as far as I understand. No logical or conceptual issue discussed.
Right. That's exactly how I see it. There was no logical problems or conceptual issues brought with my view. The only thing Pogan said is I've been wrecked because there's been evidence that I've been dishonest, when it's all just been refuted. I'm not a fucking National Socialist. The reason why is because I don't believe that there should be a nation in the way that National Socialists understand it. I'm against those type of things and on account of my anarcho-primitivism. So what, I'm wrecked because you motherfuckers think I'm lying about that? I've been expounding anarcho-primitivism for the last 2 years, or at least the last year and some. I talked to Mary Jane, who's in this room, hopefully she could defend it, about anarcho-primitivism over a year ago. So have I just been LARPing as an anarcho-primitivist for a year? That's just fucking ridiculous. You haven't wrecked anybody about that. And it's just, there's so much evidence against the fact that I'm dishonest about that, being as how I've had serious conversations with people about it for a long time, being as how I've read a lot of Kaczynski's work, not just his manifesto, okay? And so that's just been refuted 100% right there. The other thing is...
That's funny that you bring that up, though, because, like, Ted Kaczynski doesn't deny climate change. It doesn't seem that you are, because, like, I don't know if you are, because I haven't been listening this whole time, but...
Yeah, I'm not denying climate change. I just said that I don't know anything about it. Okay, and if climate change, and I already said this, and people are saying that I'm being dishonest about this. I said if climate change is true, okay, then I think some serious things should be done about it. Okay, and that's me being honest.
I actually want to ask Young something. So Young, I mean, you took a shot at me in chat right now. What exactly was I wrong about? Was there a conceptual or logical issue that I missed? Please, you
You think the claim that I made in chat was saying that you were wrong?
No, I just
making a joke.
Okay.
You're triggered. That's
okay.
Oh fuck.
Okay.
Oh fuck.
What you guys claim are wrecking people is ascribing to me the fact that I'm dishonest about my position, and which.
But look, the point that I made from the very beginning is just that, like, Pogan was being rhetorically dominant. I don't even know what the topic was.
Yeah. He's just shit talking and not interested in taking anyone seriously or getting to the bottom of any of the views. He just wants to take place, engage in a little piece of performance art. Yeah. Everyone saw right through that shit, and so everyone knows.
Yeah, I'm not claiming that it's not
conceptual or logical problems have been raised with any of my fucking views. The faggots just sat here and said Shamos is being dishonest about his positions, even though I'm giving a host of evidence to show you why I'm not dishonest. He's claimed I'm not. I'm being dishonest about my fact of anarcho-primitivism, even though I've talked with Mary Jane about that over a year ago, even though I've knowingly talked and given expositions on Kaczynski's work. So there's good evidence right there to think, unless you think I've been LARPing as an anarcho-primitivist for over a year, that's evidence to think he's fucking just completely wrong. Okay? The second thing is, being that the fact that I am an anarcho-primitivist, that automatically shows you I can't be a national socialist. So that's been refuted, okay? And then the last thing is whether or not I actually have reasons to deny climate change if I thought it was true. And I've given you good reasons to think that I have no reasons to do that. I'm not committed to, I don't want this planet to be destroyed. I don't want the future generations to have problems on account of us. I don't want things to be over-harvested. I don't want any of those things to happen. I don't want our coastline to be destroyed because of the melting of the ice caps. Okay, I love the beaches. I love this area. And so that gives you reasons right there to think everything Pogan accused me of is absolutely fucking false. So you haven't wrecked any fucking body. All you just sit here and said that I'm lying, even though I've given you so much reason to think that that's not true. You've raised no conceptual or logical issues to my position. So you faggots need to sit the fuck down. If you're the one sitting here LARPing as if you're wrecking someone in an argument when you didn't do anything of the sort. So you're the little faggots that are sitting here playing on the little show.
Who are you talking about?
Yeah, why do you always say faggots and always use plural when you're talking to one person?
Like, the thing that looks bad is just like this type of
Jovan, why do you always say FOA?
There's an example of this.
Don't be mean.
I mean, I think it's.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're curious as to why people say the word faggot's wrong, the answer might be held in the reason why you say words wrong. Why is it that you say the word FOA?
The word faggot. See, this is Shamos' inability to understand conversations.
What I was going to say was Shamos's.
I was saying why.
What it sounds like.
I was saying, why do you use plural and refer to multiple people when you're just talking to one person? Why do you have to try to insult multiple?
That's what I was going to say. It seems as
I was talking to multiple people.
All right,
you can do it.
As if, all right. Okay.
Jovan, you must have been confused. I wasn't just speaking to Pogan. I was specifically speaking to Young as well, who seemed to be trying to run interference for him half the time.
But Young didn't say you got wrecked, so how could you be?
You're just an idiot. Why do you do stuff like this? Like, I never said anything of the sort.
So now you're just sounding dumb.
That you were wrecked.
You sound like you're just...
From the very beginning, you're just
I never said anything of the sort. I accuse you of running interference, not of saying anything of the sort. I'm saying you just engaged in behavior where you're trying to run smoke screens for Pogan and claim that he's like rhetorically whipping my ass. And then there were other people that were going.
I'm just saying so how is that smoke screen? I mean, like, all that was going on was Pogan shit talking.
Yeah, it's a smoke screen when I'm sitting there trying to get to the bottom of the facts and prove that my view hasn't been.
Let me fucking talk, right? It's just, if Pogan is just spewing out rhetoric and all you're trying to do is resume a conversation that no one is fucking willing to resume, I don't see what kind of like damage I'm doing in any way to the conversation, right? I was just being comedic about a situation, and you're just bitter.
Anything.
You're just bitter.
You're like trying to allow him a way out.
You have to understand that Shamos is
he
number
wouldn't
one
engage
hot button.
anyways. Like,
he has two hot buttons.
Shamos has two hot buttons. One of them is that he's really insecure about the fact that he might or might not be an actual man. Like, you'll hear him multiple times in conversations. He said it the other day. I know I'm a man. I made all these knots hanging by my bed. Number two, Shamos is really unbelievably insecure about losing an argument, right? So when he says faggots, that's him assuming that other people agree with Pogan. He's insecure about the entire room thinking that he lost an argument. That's what that is.
But like
that's not
besides that, right? It's just like lashing out at people who are just like commenting comedically about a situation and going out of their way to say that it has nothing to do with the content. And he gets upset like